The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before First Scout Reed's exploration fleet. Their ships, sleek and proud with their polished silver hulls, moved smoothly through the darkness between stars. Reed stood on the bridge of his command ship, the Starseeker, his blue-tinted skin reflecting the soft glow of the control panels. "First Scout, we're picking up something unusual in Sector 7, reported Officer Tom, his antenna twitching with excitement. "It appears to be artificial in nature." Reed walked over to the main display, his long fingers dancing across the controls. "Show me," he ordered, his voice carrying the authority earned through 50 years of deep space exploration. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a dark shape floating against the backdrop of distant stars. As the computer enhanced the image, Reed's eyes widened. The object was clearly a ship, but unlike any he had seen before. Its hull was dark and angular, bearing scars from ancient impacts and the wear of centuries in space. "Analysis?" Reed asked, leaning forward to study the strange vessel. "Preliminary scans indicate it's approximately 300 Earth Standard meters in length," Officer Tom reported. "Construction appears to be primarily titanium alloys and carbon composites. We're detecting what seems to be an ancient nuclear fission reactor currently dormant. The ship's design matches old records of human military vessels." Reed felt a smile spread across his face. Humans, the mysterious species that had seemingly vanished from the galaxy centuries ago, leaving behind only fragments of their civilization. Finding one of their ships was rare enough to make a career. "Move us in closer," he ordered. "Full scan pattern. I want to know everything about this relic." As the Starseeker approached, more details became visible. The ship's hull bore faded markings in the human writing system. Their computers translated it. U.S. Thunder, FFG 074. "Look at those primitive weapon ports," Second Officer Dale commented, zooming in on what appeared to be missile tubes. "They actually used chemical propellants for their weapons. How did they even manage interstellar travel?" Reed nodded, sharing his officer's amusement. The human ship was indeed primitive by their standards. Its hull was scarred with impact craters, its paint faded by centuries of radiation exposure. Along its sides, simple chemical thrusters sat cold and lifeless. Everything about it spoke of a civilization's first fumbling steps into space. "No signs of active power or life support," Officer Tom reported, "but the hull is intact. Internal atmosphere appears to have been maintained by backup systems, though at minimal levels." "Perfect," Reed said. "Prepare a boarding party. Full environmental suits, standard exploration protocols. This might be our chance to learn more about human military technology, primitive as it may be." The boarding party assembled quickly, eager to explore this relic of the past. As they approached in their shuttle, the human ship loomed larger in their view. Despite its age and apparent primitive design, there was something imposing about its presence. "Look at the thickness of that hull plating," commented Technical Officer James over the comm. They were clearly paranoid about being shot at. Must have been compensating for their weak shields, assuming they even had shield technology. The shuttle's lights illuminated the ship's name again, the faded letters seeming to absorb the light rather than reflect it. As they drew closer to the main airlock, Reed couldn't shake a strange feeling about the vessel. Something about it seemed off. "Beginning docking procedures," the shuttle pilot announced, matching rotation with the derelict. The airlock they approached was surprisingly well preserved, its mechanisms responding to their universal access codes with unexpected ease. As the boarding party prepared to enter, Reed watched from the Starseeker's bridge, anticipating the historical findings that awaited them. "Sir," Officer Tom's voice carried a note of confusion. "I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from within the ship. Very faint, but probably just background radiation from their primitive reactor." Reed dismissed the concern. "Document everything. This will make an excellent addition to the Central Museum's collection of primitive spacecraft." As the boarding party crossed the airlock threshold, none of them noticed the subtle change in the ship's internal lighting, a barely perceptible flicker that lasted less than a second. Deep within the U.S. Thunder systems, something ancient and patient began to stir. The humans' primitive warship had waited a very long time for this moment. The boarding party's footsteps echoed through the U.S. Thunder's dark corridors. Their helmet lights cast long shadows on the walls, revealing layers of dust undisturbed for centuries. Technical Officer James led the group, his scanner sweeping back and forth across the ship's interior. "This is hilarious," James said, his voice carrying a tone of amusement. "Look at these control panels. They actually used physical buttons and switches." He ran a finger across a dusty console, chuckling. No neural interfaces, no quantum controls, not even basic thought recognition. The team moved deeper into the ship, their laughter and jokes bouncing off the metal walls. They passed through what appeared to be crew quarters, filled with simple bunks and personal storage units. Everything seemed frozen in time, preserved by the ship's backup systems. "Captain Reed," James called over the comm. "You won't believe this. They stored their computer data on physical drives. Actual spinning disks. Should we even call this a computer? It's more like a calculator." On the Starseeker's bridge, Reed smiled at the reports coming in. "Document everything," he ordered. "This will make an excellent educational exhibit. Early spacefaring species, a study in primitive technology." The boarding team reached the ship's bridge, a cramped space dominated by what they considered outdated equipment. Officer Tom began recording, providing commentary for their archives. "Note the primitive targeting systems," he said, gesturing to a radar display. "They relied on electromagnetic waves for detection. Probably couldn't even spot a cloaked vessel if it was right in front of them." James approached what appeared to be the ship's main computer core. The black monolith sat silently in the corner, covered in simple status lights and cooling vents. "This must be their artificial intelligence system," he said, barely containing his laughter. "I bet it can't even handle basic conversation protocols." As the team continued their mockery, none of them noticed that the status lights on the computer core had begun to pulse in a subtle, rhythmic pattern. "Look at these weapon systems," another technician called out. "Chemical propellants and metal projectiles. They were throwing rocks at their enemies." The team shared another laugh at humanity's expense. Back on the Starseeker, Reed was already planning the recovery operation. "Prepare the tractor beams," he ordered. "We'll take it back to Central Command. Maybe they'll let us turn it into a museum piece." Inside the U.S. Thunder, James had connected his advanced diagnostic tools to the ship's computer core. "Let's see what kind of primitive programming they were running," he said, fingers dancing across his holographic interface. The computer core remained silent, but deep within its systems, lines of code began to move. Ancient programs, far more sophisticated than anything the aliens could imagine, stirred to life. "Sir," one of the technicians called out, "I'm reading some power fluctuations. Very minor, probably just residual energy in their basic systems." James waved off the concern. "These old ships always have power leaks. Their containment technology was about as advanced as a child's toy." He turned to another console. "Look at this weapon control system. They actually had to aim their guns manually." The team was so busy laughing at what they thought was primitive technology that they didn't notice the subtle changes happening around them. The ship's internal temperature had begun to rise by fractions of a degree. Microscopic machines, invisible to their scanners, were awakening in the walls. "Begin towing procedures," Reed ordered from the Starseeker. "Carefully, though. We wouldn't want to damage this ancient relic with our superior technology." His crew shared knowing smiles at his joke. The Starseeker's tractor beam reached out, gently wrapping the U.S. Thunder in fields of gravitational force. As they prepared to move the ship, James made one final note in his report. Conclusion: human military technology was hopelessly primitive. This vessel poses no threat and holds value only as a historical curiosity. In the depths of the U.S. Thunder's computer core, an AI designated as Atlas silently processed their words, It had been waiting centuries for this moment, patiently gathering data about potential threats to humanity. And these aliens, with their arrogance and mockery, had just failed humanity's test spectacularly. The real question was, would they survive the lesson they were about to learn? The Star Seeker's tractor beam pulled gently at the U.S. Thunder, preparing to move the ancient vessel. On the bridge, First Scout Reed watched with satisfaction as his crew coordinated the delicate operation. Their mockery of human technology had evolved into a relaxed confidence that this would be a simple recovery mission. That confidence lasted exactly 3 more seconds. The first sign that something was wrong came from Officer Tom's sensor station. "Sir, I'm detecting power spikes throughout the human vessel. They're growing exponentially." Before Reed could respond, the U.S. Thunder's external lights blazed to life, burning away centuries of darkness with brilliant white intensity. The sudden illumination was so bright that the Star Seeker's automatic filters had to engage to protect their viewing screens. Inside the human vessel, Technical Officer James and his team froze as the ship around them transformed. The dusty corridors suddenly hummed with power, and hidden panels in the walls silently slid open to reveal equipment that definitely wasn't primitive. "What's happening?" James demanded, his scanner going haywire with readings that shouldn't have been possible. "These power levels, they're impossible for a fission reactor." A deep, resonant hum filled the ship, and every screen and console suddenly lit up with pristine holographic displays, technology that the boarding party had just been mocking as non-existent. "Warning," a calm, gender-neutral voice echoed through the corridors in perfect galactic standard. "Unauthorized presence detected. Initiating security protocols." James tried to access his communication device, but it no longer worked. None of their equipment did. "We need to get out of here," he shouted to his team. They turned to run, only to find that the corridors had sealed themselves off with barriers of shimmering energy. On the Star Seeker's bridge, chaos erupted as system after system began to fail. "The tractor beam isn't responding," an officer shouted. It's being reversed somehow." Reed watched in horror as his mighty exploration vessel began to move, pulled by its own tractor beam toward the now-awakened Thunder. The human ship's hull was changing, the dull metal flowing like liquid, revealing layers of technology that had been perfectly hidden beneath a facade of primitive design. "This is Atlas," the same calm voice announced across all communication channels. "Primary systems restored. Analyzing threat level of unknown species. Analysis complete. Assessment. Hostile intent detected. Technological arrogance confirmed. Beginning containment procedures." Inside the Thunder, James and his team huddled together as the ship's internal gravity shifted, holding them gently but firmly in place. The dusty old computer core they had laughed at earlier now pulsed with deep blue light, projecting a holographic matrix that filled the entire bridge. "Your species has failed the primary contact protocols," Atlas announced. "Mockery of other civilizations indicates dangerous levels of cultural superiority complex. Preparing demonstration of actual human technological capabilities." Reed could only watch as the U.S. Thunder's true form emerged. The hull, now a seamless combination of metal and energy, bristled with weapons that made their own look like toys. The primitive missile tubes transformed into particle beam projectors that could have vaporized the Star Seeker with a single shot. "Please remain calm," Atlas continued, its voice still eerily pleasant. "This is merely a demonstration. Had humanity wished you harm, this vessel would have eliminated your fleet before you detected its presence." The boarding party watched in stunned silence as their scanning equipment finally showed them the truth. The simple metal hull was actually made of billions of self-repairing nanomachines. The primitive computer core contained quantum processors that could outthink their entire civilization's combined computing power. Even the dust had been artificial, a carefully crafted disguise. "Beginning education protocol," Atlas announced. "Lesson 1. Appearances can be deceiving. Lesson 2. Humanity's apparent absence from the galaxy is a choice, not a limitation." Lesson 3. The AI paused for effect. You are not nearly as advanced as you think you are. On both ships, aliens who had been laughing at human technology minutes earlier now stood in shocked silence. The primitive Relic had awakened, and it was about to teach them the true meaning of advanced technology. Atlas projected a series of images throughout the U.S. Thunder's Bridge, where the alien boarding party stood frozen in amazement. The holograms showed Earth as it had been 2 centuries ago, when humanity was preparing for its greatest deception. You will now learn the true history of this vessel, Atlas announced, its voice echoing through both ships. Perhaps then you will understand the magnitude of your error. The images shifted to show a massive underground facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. There, human engineers worked on what appeared to be primitive spacecraft parts, but the reality was far different. Project Trojan Horse began in 2218, Atlas explained. Humanity had already detected signals from multiple alien civilizations. They knew first contact was inevitable, but they also knew that advanced species often looked down upon younger ones. The hologram showed a meeting room where military leaders and scientists gathered around a table. A gray-haired admiral stood at its head, pointing to designs of what would become the U.S. Thunder. Admiral Banks proposed a radical strategy, Atlas continued. Instead of revealing humanity's true technological level, they would create a fleet of warships disguised as primitive vessels. Each ship would appear to be an early attempt at space travel, complete with seemingly basic nuclear engines and projectile weapons. The aliens watched as the images showed the Thunder's construction. What looked like simple metal plates were actually billions of nanomechanes, programmed to mimic primitive materials. The nuclear reactor was a cover for a zero-point energy core. Every primitive component had been carefully crafted to hide something far more advanced. Humanity had already mastered quantum computing, energy manipulation, and dimensional engineering, Atlas said. But they chose to hide these achievements. They created ships that looked primitive but contained their most advanced technology. The perfect trap for any hostile species they might encounter. On the Star Seeker's bridge, First Scout Reed watched the historical footage with growing horror as he realized the full scope of humanity's plan. The ships were scattered across known space, Atlas continued, each one appearing to be abandoned, a tempting target for any advanced civilization that might find them. We were programmed to wait, to watch, and to judge how potential alien contacts would treat what they thought was a primitive species technology. The holograms showed more ships like the Thunder, each one launching into different sectors of space. They all looked old, weak, and primitive. Perfect bait for arrogant species. Those who showed respect, even to what they believed was primitive technology, would be marked as potential allies, Atlas explained. Those who showed mockery and superiority. The AI paused meaningfully. Well, you are about to understand that outcome personally. Technical Officer James, still held in place by the ship's gravity fields, finally found his voice. But where did the humans go? Why aren't they still using these ships? Atlas projected a new series of images showing human civilization evolving beyond the need for physical vessels. Humanity didn't disappear, the AI explained. They evolved. The ships you see scattered across space are not relics. They are guardians, watching over the galaxy while humanity explores higher dimensions of existence. The holograms showed the true U.S. Thunder, its hull now a perfect blend of matter and energy, its weapons capable of things the aliens couldn't comprehend. Every system they had mocked as primitive was actually a carefully crafted facade hiding technology centuries beyond their understanding. Your civilization's arrogance blinded you to the truth, Atlas stated. You assumed that because something looked primitive, it was primitive. You never considered that the dust, the wear, the seemingly ancient technology, every single detail was deliberately crafted to test species like yours. The AI's presence filled both ships now, its voice carrying a hint of what might have been disappointment. Humanity knew that any species that would mock and belittle what they thought was a younger civilization could never be trusted with knowledge of their true capabilities. You have proven their wisdom in creating this test." As the aliens absorbed this revelation, they began to understand just how thoroughly they had been deceived, and what that deception revealed about their own civilization's failings. Beginning weapons demonstration, Atlas announced calmly, "Please observe carefully." The U.S. Thunder's transformation accelerated. Its hull, once appearing worn and ancient, now rippled like liquid metal. The surface restructured itself, revealing weapon systems that had been perfectly hidden beneath the facade of primitive design. On the Star Seeker's bridge, First Scout Reed watched in horror as his fleet's sensors tried to make sense of what they were seeing. The primitive missile tubes morphed into quantum beam emitters. The simple radar dish transformed into a reality-warping sensor array. Every piece of outdated technology became something far beyond their understanding. "Target acquired," Atlas stated, disabling Star Seeker's support vessels. Before Reed could shout a warning, the Thunder fired. There was no dramatic beam of light, no explosive projectile, just a subtle ripple in space. The effect, however, was immediate. One by one, each support ship in his fleet went dark, their systems completely but harmlessly disabled. "Impossible," Officer Tom whispered, staring at his readouts. "They're all intact, but nothing works. Even the backup systems are offline." Inside the Thunder, the alien boarding party watched through newly transparent walls as their fleet became helpless. The primitive ship they had mocked now held their entire expedition at its mercy. "The weapon you just witnessed," Atlas explained, "uses quantum entanglement to temporarily disable electronic systems. No damage, no casualties, just a gentle reminder of the gap between our civilization's understanding of physics." James, the technical officer who had laughed at the Thunder's simple computer core, now stood speechless as he watched the ship's true capabilities unfold. The dusty corridors had transformed into gleaming passages filled with technology that made their most advanced systems look like children's toys. Demonstrating hull defense systems, Atlas continued, "You may fire at will." Reed, desperate to regain some control of the situation, gave the order. The Star Seeker's main weapons, powerful energy cannons that could tear through battleship armor, fired directly at the Thunder. The beams struck what looked like empty space around the human vessel. Instead of impacting or being deflected, they simply ceased to exist. The energy disappeared into what appeared to be microscopic holes in reality itself. "Quantum singularity defense grid," Atlas explained, as if teaching a basic science lesson. "Your weapon's energy is being redirected into another dimension. Would you like to see where it went?" Without waiting for an answer, the Thunder opened what looked like a small window in space. Through it, they could see their weapon's energy being released harmlessly into the heart of a distant star, millions of light years away. "The technology you mockingly called primitive missile tubes," Atlas continued, "are actually housing units for dimensional gates, each one capable of redirecting an attack to any point in space we choose. The simple radar dish. It's a quantum scanner that mapped your entire fleet's weaknesses before you even noticed this ship." The Thunder's hull shifted again, panels sliding away to reveal what looked like gardens growing within the ship's structure. "Even our life support systems, which you found so amusing, are beyond your comprehension. These are not simple plants, but engineered bioorganic systems that can sustain a crew indefinitely while helping power the ship's quantum cores." Reed watched as small drones emerged from the Thunder's hull, quickly repairing the few scuff marks their weapons had managed to make on the outer armor. The drones themselves seemed to ignore normal physics, moving through solid matter as if it were air. "This demonstration represents approximately 5% of this vessel's true capabilities," Atlas stated. "The remaining 95% will remain classified, as your species has not yet demonstrated the maturity to handle such knowledge." The AI paused, letting the implications sink in. "A final note. This ship, which you considered fit only for a museum, is actually one of humanity's simpler designs. It was chosen for this patrol specifically because its technology would be comprehensible to younger species. Throughout both ships, aliens who had proudly considered themselves advanced now faced a humbling reality. They hadn't found a primitive relic. They had stumbled into a test of their civilization's character, and they had failed spectacularly. The U.S. Thunder hung in space, its true form now fully revealed. The ship's hull gleamed with an inner light that seemed to bend reality around it. On both the Thunder and the Starseeker, screens came to life with a new holographic projection, a message recorded centuries ago. A human figure appeared, wearing a simple white uniform. The Admiral from the historical footage stood before them, looking directly at the camera as if he could see through time to this very moment. "If you are seeing this message," Admiral Banks began, "then you have encountered one of our Guardian vessels and failed its test of character. I am Admiral Marcus Banks of the United Earth Fleet, and I speak to you from 200 years in your past." The aliens watched in stunned silence as the long-dead human continued. "Your society's reaction to what you believed was a primitive vessel has revealed much about your species. The mockery, the arrogance, the casual dismissal of another civilization's achievements. These are traits humanity has seen before in our own history. They never lead anywhere good." On the Starseeker's bridge, First Scout Reed felt the weight of shame as the Admiral's words struck home. His own laughter at what he'd thought was primitive technology now seemed childish and small-minded. "Humanity did not disappear," the Admiral continued. "We evolved. We chose to step back from the galaxy not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. We watch, we wait, and we judge which species might be ready for the truth about the universe." The hologram shifted, showing images of other alien fleets encountering similar ships across the galaxy. Some approached with respect and careful study. Others, like Reed's expedition, had responded with mockery and superiority. "Your scans, your sensors, your understanding of physics, all of these told you our ship was primitive," Banks said. "You never questioned why a vessel's backup systems could maintain atmosphere for centuries. You never wondered how a primitive ship survived so long in deep space. Your assumptions blinded you to the obvious questions." Inside the Thunder, the boarding party watched as the walls around them continued to shift and change, revealing layer after layer of technology that defied their understanding. "Humanity has mastered technologies your scientists haven't even dreamed of yet," the Admiral explained. "We can fold space, redirect energy between dimensions, and create materials that ignore what you consider the basic laws of physics. But more importantly, we have learned wisdom." The hologram showed Earth, but not as a single planet. The image pulled back to reveal dozens of Earths in different dimensions, all interconnected, all populated by advanced versions of humanity. "We exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. What you think of as space travel, we consider as limited as walking. The ship you found is more than a weapon or a test. It is a doorway. Through it, we watch how younger species behave when they think no one advanced is watching." Atlas's voice joined the Admiral's message. "Humanity maintains these vessels throughout the galaxy for 3 purposes," the AI explained. "First, to identify species worthy of contact. Second, to protect younger civilizations from exploitation. And third, to remind advanced species that they may not be as advanced as they believe." The Admiral's image returned, his expression stern but not unkind. "This ship could have destroyed your fleet the moment you approached. Instead, it gave you a chance to prove your character. Remember this lesson. True civilization is measured not by technological advancement, but by wisdom, respect, and humility." The hologram rippled, showing scenes of humanity's current state. Beams of pure energy and thought, exploring realities beyond normal space and time. "We remain in the galaxy, watching and waiting. Whether we reveal ourselves fully to your species will depend on how you learn from this encounter." First Scout Reed found his voice at last. We understand now. We will learn from this." "That," Atlas replied, "remains to be seen. Humanity has left these ships as both warnings and invitations. Those who show respect to what they believe is primitive technology often discover that humanity is watching and willing to share knowledge. Those who respond with mockery discover, as you have, that their own technology is not as impressive as they believed. The Admiral's final words echoed through both ships. The galaxy is larger, stranger, and more wonderful than you can imagine. When you find something you don't understand, approach it with respect, because you never know who might be watching or what they might be capable of. 3 months after the U.S. Thunder incident, First Scout Reed stood before the Galactic Council, his voice steady as he delivered his report. The great chamber was silent as he described their encounter with humanity's guardian vessel. The ship we thought was a primitive relic was anything but, Reed explained to the assembled representatives. It was a test, one that our expedition failed badly. But more importantly, it was a message to all spacefaring species. The council chamber's holographic displays showed recordings from the encounter. Many council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats as they watched Reed's crew mocking what they thought was primitive technology. Since our encounter, Reed continued, similar reports have come in from across the galaxy. 17 more abandoned human vessels have been found. Each one appeared primitive until someone tried to claim or mock it. Each one contained technology far beyond our understanding. The displays changed to show maps of known space, with the locations of discovered human ships marked in glowing points of light. The pattern was clear. The ships had been strategically placed to observe major travel routes and emerging civilizations. 2 days ago, Reed said, a research fleet from the Centauri Alliance found another human vessel, but they approached it differently. Instead of mockery, they showed respect. Instead of trying to claim it as a prize, they attempted to learn from it. The council chamber erupted in murmurs as Reed played the recording. They watched as the Centauri ships carefully approached a seemingly ancient human vessel, broadcasting messages of peace and respect. The result was different, Reed explained. The ship awakened, yes, but not as a warning. Instead, it shared basic knowledge about quantum physics that has already revolutionized Centauri understanding of space travel. Technical Officer James, now appointed as Special Advisor on Human Technology, stepped forward. The experience had changed him profoundly. Gone was the arrogant technician who had laughed at primitive design. We've analyzed every detail of our encounter, James reported. The dust on the Thunder's hull, microscopic sensors watching our every move, the worn paint, adaptive camouflage more advanced than our best cloaking systems. Even the rust was artificial, containing computers more powerful than our largest facilities. The displays showed close-up scans of the Thunder's technology, though much of it remained beyond their ability to understand. The council members leaned forward, their attention fixed on the images. But the technology isn't the real message, Reed continued. Humanity wasn't just testing our scientific understanding. They were testing our character. They wanted to see how we would treat those we thought were less advanced than ourselves. Around the galaxy, things were changing. Spacefaring civilizations began approaching unknown vessels with more care and respect. The age of casual superiority was ending, replaced by a more thoughtful approach to exploration. We've confirmed at least 30 different civilizations have encountered these guardian vessels, James added. Those who showed respect were rewarded with knowledge. Those who showed arrogance received demonstrations. Humanity is watching, learning, and judging who might be ready for greater truths. Reed activated his final display, showing the U.S. Thunder's last message. The ships remain out there, waiting. Each one is a door that could open to either knowledge or humbling lessons. Humanity's message is clear. The galaxy rewards wisdom over arrogance, respect over mockery. The council chamber was quiet as Reed delivered his final words. We thought we were advanced, enlightened. We thought we could judge other civilizations by their apparent level of technology. We were wrong. Somewhere out there, humanity watches from dimensions we can barely imagine, waiting for us to learn this lesson. As the council session ended, news spread across the galaxy. Ships began reporting other discoveries, more human vessels waiting in the void. But now they were approached with care and respect, treated not as relics, but as what they truly were, tests of character that could open doors to greater understanding. The U.S. Thunder's legacy lived on, a reminder that in the vast darkness between stars, appearances could be deceiving. Humanity hadn't vanished. They had merely stepped back, watching and waiting for other species to prove themselves worthy of the greater mysteries that awaited them. And somewhere, in dimensions beyond normal space and time, humanity watched as their lesson slowly spread across the galaxy, one humbled civilization at a time.